All right, we back on one. Back in here one time for the one time. On our last live, we left off on a note of how did he get captured? Senor El Mencho. Well, that was something I didn't know until I did my searching this season and did my research, a little due diligence. For those of you who don't know, we're going to give you a little backdrop info. His name is Nemesio Ruben Cervantes. He was born July 17th, 1966, and he died February the 22nd, 2026. And he was commonly referred to as his alias by El Mencho. He was the Mexican drug cartel lord and head of the Jalisco New Generation Cartel. It's an organized crime group based in Jalisco. He was the most wanted person in Mexico and one of the most wanted in the United States at the time of his death. The U.S. government and the Mexican government were offering rewards up to $15 million, respectively, for information leading to his arrest. And this is the story.
How exactly was the world's richest drug lord finally captured? Well, it actually took both US and Mexican intelligence working together, and their strategy was the exact same tactic they used to find bin Laden. The trick is follow the courier, and you get the prize. They tracked down his associate and kept tabs on one of his many girlfriends. Because yes, this 59-year-old guy somehow had a love interest. Maybe because he is richer than the Sinaloa drug lords with a $20 billion at his disposal. For the longest time, the guy was a total ghost. He stayed entirely off the US radar by intentionally keeping his operations away from American citizens. So how did it all finally end? It happened at a cabin. And even when he was completely surrounded by military helicopters, he was still protected by his own heavily armed henchmen, rocking RPGs and armored vehicles. And all hell broke loose when the Mexican Special Forces started attacking with guns blazing. The operation that brought down Mexico's most wanted man didn't happen in a bustling city. It happened in a fortress. The primary fire...
It happened in a fortress, not a city, a fortress. A fortress that he built with his own money inside the woods, deep, somewhere scarce, remote, not able to get to very easily. So they've been searching this season for him for a very long time, and they finally caught up with him, but they did it through tactics of scarcity.
Fight the exact moment the Mexican armed forces went head-to-head with heavily armed CJNG operatives, fatally wounded many of the drug lord's members. This is located in the western state of Jalisco, but Tapalpa is a rugged mountainous municipality about a 2-hour drive southwest of the state capital, Guadalajara. For the cartel, this wasn't just a hideout. It was a tactical stronghold, utilizing the harsh terrain as a natural defense against the military. But taking down the kingpin was only the beginning. Almost immediately following the raid, the CJNG unleashed hell. A massive, highly coordinated wave of retaliation exploded against government forces and public infrastructure.
And we can't forget, his cartel was taking down the military by themselves, the Mexican military by themselves. Death after death, body after body. It was no more to be said between the two. And Mexico and the USA, they joined forces and had a big reward out for him, $15 million. And this was the ending result. Clash.
Violent pushback, often referred to as narco blockades, spread like wildfire across the country. The violence hit hardest in Jalisco, engulfing major cities like Guadalajara, Zapopan, and the international tourist hub of Puerto Vallarta, where the chaos even spilled into the airports, throwing tourists into a panic and forcing immediate flight cancellations. The cartel's fury wasn't contained to just one state. The violence rapidly bled into Michoacán, Guanajuato, Colima, Tamaulipas, Nayarit, Zacatecas, Guerrero, and Aguascalientes. In a desperate bid to paralyze the region and exact revenge, drug lords members hijacked.
So we just went on all those cities that they just sold. Everything was at a halt. Excuse me. Everything. Stop. No trolleys, no buses, no walking, hardly no talking, just screaming and chaos. No flights entering or exiting, and a lot of people were stranded, especially in Guadalajara.
Hijacked civilian vehicles and semi-trucks, setting them ablaze to completely block major highways. They torched local businesses and gas stations, engaging in brutal, open-street shootouts with local and federal security forces. But how did he become the richest cartel in Mexico? For years, he was a ghost. A phantom who commanded an empire of blood, methamphetamine, and billions of dollars. But on Sunday, February 22nd, 2026, the ghost was finally cornered.
Yeah, he was definitely a ghost. Definitely. They said they only had 3 pictures of him, and they were all digitally distorted. And those pictures were outdated and more than a decade old. So really, they didn't know how he looked face to face. They just knew off of the intel that they had prior to, and that's what they had to go off of. Damn.
Nemesio Ruben Oseguera Cervantes, better known to the world as El Mencho. He was the supreme leader of the Jalisco
El
New
Mencho.
Generation Cartel, or CJNG. He didn't just run a cartel. He commanded a heavily armed paramilitary force that brought the Mexican state to its knees. But how did a former farmer and deported immigrant build a $20 billion war chest? And what exactly happened in the violent, fiery raid that finally took his life? To understand his explosive end, we have to look at his quiet beginning. In the 1980s, Mencho was just an undocumented immigrant in the United States, working the marijuana fields of California. He was arrested, served time in a U.S. federal prison, and was deported back to Mexico at the age of 30. That deportation was the match that lit the powder keg. He joined the Milenio drug lords in Michoacán, building a reputation as a calculating, ruthless enforcer.
So El Mencho, he was in the States pushing and peddling the marijuana. He got knocked, tore off, and got deported back to Mexico. But like anybody that's willing to go for what they know and have the means to, they're not gonna let anything stop them. Nothing at all.
When that cartel fractured, Mencho didn't just pick up the pieces, he forged a new terrifying weapon, the CJNG. Mencho was a master strategist. While rival cartels like Sinaloa bled themselves dry in civil wars, especially after the capture of El Chapo and the recent fall of El Mayo, Mencho capitalized on the chaos. He pivoted away from traditional routes and went all in on methamphetamine and fentanyl.
And for those of you who don't know, El in Spanish, it means the or the. Had a couple of people ask me, well, was he related to El Chapo because they had the same first name? Nah, El is not the name. It just means the or the.
Focusing on highly lucrative markets in Europe and Asia. This strategy kept him slightly under the radar of American politics while quietly amassing a staggering $20 billion empire. Former DEA agents claim the CJNG has vastly more money than the Sinaloa cartel ever did. But unlimited wealth buys unlimited arrogance. A couple of years ago, his phone was hacked right while he was having a conversation with the police. If you don't want your phone and emails to get compromised like that, you should get this military-grade VPN. Think of Surfshark VPN as your frontline defense. It scans and detects threats, alerting you to thousands of dangerous emails.
To start a podcast with Riverside, all you need is a concept and a way to record it. Here's how it works. First, go to riverside.fm and open an
You can use this web content blocker. All you do is enter the phone's information, pick the types of websites you'd like to block, and then save it. That's it. Your children is protected from any inappropriate or dangerous content. Beyond that, it includes a robust antivirus software to shield your devices from viruses, malware, and tracking by ads, bots, or third parties. Finally, with Surfshark VPN, a single subscription covers not just you, but also your friends or even your entire city if you wanted. Go to our link surfshark.com/AITelly. By buying through the promo link, you will get 4 extra months free, assured by a 30-day money-back guarantee. Listen to this recently surfaced actual wiretapped phone call between El Mencho and a local police commander, codenamed Delta 1, who was doing his job a little too well.
Delta 1.
Hey, ¿quién habla?
Mira,
A phone tap. Well, damn, he was a little too late on that, wasn't he? Y'all should have showed El Mencho that little brochure that y'all just put past here, the little promotion deal. He might have been okay.
hijo de tu... Soy Mencho, güey. Relaja tu puta gente a la verga. Soy Mencho, güey. Relaja tus partidas, si no te voy a partir tu madre, tienes toda tu bola de perros. Te tengo identificado 30 güeyes. Hasta tus perros te voy a matar si no te relajas, güey. ¿Cómo ves?
He gonna kill his dogs. He said he gonna kill everybody. Even kill your dogs. Gosh almighty, not Lassie. God damn. It's a 1-2 move you don't want to do. One thing for certain, 2 things for sure. You don't touch a man's dog. Some men love their dogs more than they love their lady. Because they know that dog gonna be there for them when the hard times come. His dog gonna be right there holding them down.
Ya está, señor, ahorita los bajo.
Oh, no cuelgues, hijo de la verga. Te tengo ubicados en
No, no le estoy colgando, le estoy diciendo ahorita los bajo.
Póngase a las pilas, güey. ¿Qué es que le cuesta ser amigo? Uno no se mete con ustedes para que se pasen de verga.
No, señor, ahorita yo se las bajo.
Pongan, mire, revíremeles a todos los hijos de su madre porque todos agarran dinero y son buenos de puercos.
¿Qué es lo que me están
¿Se
diciendo?
me ponen a tiros o tú eres el primero que vas a marchar por ellos, León?
No, señor.
¿Vale?
No, señor, no se trata de eso.
Váyase a la verga porque aquí los vergazos están al 220, ya se la sabe. Y miedo no hay.
Says, watch yourself because I spill blood at a moment's notice. You already know what's up. El Mencho was real devious out there. I mean, of course, you in that type of setting, I would say, you would have to be. But he was going to get them, him, Shim, and the dogs. God damn. Damn.
No, señor, no se trata de eso. Ahorita yo lo sé.
Entonces, si quieren amistades, sí va a tener un amigazo. Si no, a su madre a la verga.
No, yo sé, señor.
Ya estoy hasta la verga de que no entiendan, loco.
Señor, usted me conoce, usted sabe que yo soy amistad.
Pues por eso me extraña. Yo te entiendo, güey, pero pues no mames, yo sé que tienes.
Oh, so his guy's sitting there pleading himself like, okay, you know I'm on your side, you know I'm with you. Okay. And Mencho was going through some hard paranoia. I mean, he had all rights to be. All this shit he got going on. Everything going up, down, left to the right.
La familia de verga, póngase las putas pilas.
Yo lo sé, señor. Nada más.
No quiero que me apagues este teléfono. Después te voy a marcar, güey. A ver si no se relajaron a la verga, ¿eh?
No, ahorita le voy a marcar.
No, he doing it saying, I got you, sir. I got you.
A todos en general, güey. Relájenme los vergas, por favor.
Ahorita le voy a marcar de otro número a este número.
Okay, so the guy on the phone, he was one of the, I'm guessing, one of the higher ranking right men of his, because it said he just told one of the generals there, the guy that Mencho was talking to, he told one of the generals to tell everybody to chill out. So The guy on the phone didn't actually go and tell everybody to chill out. What they call it, passing the buck. He was told to do something, but he had somebody else to do it. So he passed the buck on down to the general. So the general had to get everybody in line.
No, ya no le vuelvas a marcar, yo le marco cuando yo pueda.
Ándale, pues.
Pero no me lo apague porque lo voy a entender como negatividad.
No, señor, ahorita le mando un mensaje de un...
If Mencho said he don't call back to this phone, he gonna turn the phone off. But the guy on the phone was telling him keep the phone on. See, and Mencho knew what he was talking about.
Órale pues, Melón, ahí les quiero eso, que se relaje.
Sí, señor, usted me conoce, usted sabe que hay respeto. Nada más
Ya
aquí,
está, igualmente, de aquí para allá también. Ahí disculpen por las malas palabras.
Aquí los muchachos
¿Vale?
son los que están allá y usted yo se los saludo.
Ahora pues, ahí le encargo.
Ándale, señor.
Ahí relájenmelos a todos, dígale que va de parte mía.
Claro que sí, señor.
Ya está.
Ándale.
That's an order from me.
But how did the Mexican and U.S. intel caught him? Why do you follow the girlfriend? Yes, literally follow the girlfriend. Intel identified a trusted cartel associate with a very specific job, moving one of El Mencho's love interest.
Lord. Okay. So that's how they got him. Through his old lady, through his partner, through his love. Toe tagged him, bagged him, and sent him to the side. Fried, died, laid to the side. All through his lady. If it, And Mencho said he needed that for that. He said, nah, I can't be out here without that for that. Let me get some of that for that. Okay, Mencho.
They placed this courier under strict, round-the-clock surveillance, waiting for him to make a move. And eventually he did. Agents tracked the associate as he escorted the girlfriend to a secret rendezvous point. The trail led them exactly where El Mencho felt safest. The heavily guarded, secluded cabin compound in Tapalpa, a picturesque mountain resort town about 80 miles outside of Guadalajara. On Saturday, February 21st, 2026, the girlfriend arrived at the compound. Mexican military commanders had eyes on the target, but they didn't rush in. They played the waiting game. They held their positions, watching silently until she safely departed the property later that day. Her departure confirmed what they needed to know. El Mencho and his heavily armed security detail were still inside. To pull this off, the military had to maintain absolute secrecy.
What did it confirm when she left? Nothing. That she got knocked down? That he cracked her? What did it confirm? Unless she was tattooed, but they said they were just following her and the person that was delivering her. So I don't know if she was compromised or not. Hope she wasn't compromised. At the end of the day, he gone now.
In the early, pitch-black hours of Sunday, February 22nd, the trap was sprung. The moment they breached the perimeter, all hell broke loose. The CJNG didn't just have standard rifles. The compound was a fortress defended by armored vehicles and military-grade rocket launchers, specifically designed to blast military helicopters out of the sky.
Big boy.
When the Mexican Army Special Forces breached the perimeter, a fierce, sustained firefight erupted. The air was instantly thick with the deafening roar of 50-caliber machine guns and the shattering blasts of rocket-propelled grenades. 4 cartel members forming the inner security ring were killed instantly in the courtyard. 3 Mexican Special Forces soldiers were severely wounded as they pushed through the barrage. As his defenses collapsed, the 59-year-old Kingpin attempted to retreat. But where was he during the raid? Tactical reports place El Mencho in the west wing of the safe house, a fortified section of the compound likely intended to shield him or provide access to an escape route while his guards held off the assault. But the military's push was too fast and too overwhelming. Amidst the chaotic crossfire, Mexican Special Forces laid down heavy suppressing fire using their standard issue FX-05 5.56 mm assault rifles.
5.56.
High-velocity rounds
off
tore through the
ligaments.
reinforced doors and drywall of the west corridor. Caught in the fatal funnel of the hallway, the Kingpin was hit. struck multiple times in the torso by the 5.56mm rounds, El Mencho collapsed onto the floor of the West Wing. Critically wounded and bleeding heavily, his remaining security detail was neutralized. We also made a deep dive into the sea, air, and land components of the
That 5.56, that's what took him down. All the way down. And he was on the West Wing, and it penetrated all the way through. So it said it was for protection, but those walls didn't protect them at all. They should have had Jorge and goddamn El Guardo goddamn put up some stronger forces. They would have made it up out of there. Well, at least to the backyard, at least. At least to the backyard without being hit.
nuclear triad. So subscribe for more videos to not miss a beat.
Gosh, so.
See that you.
So the whole time, it was not her fault though, but it was his lady that got him hit. Of course, she didn't know. They just had the tabs on her. They just had the tabs on her, that's all. And they followed her all the way to the hideout, waited till she left. And that was that. Gosh almighty. Can't feel any type of way about it at all. I know she's sad, mad. But I wonder if they're gonna try to charge her too with anything conspiracy or anything of that nature. I'm gonna have to dig a little deeper, dig a little deeper. But when she finds out that she was the one that got tagged and followed, she's gonna definitely feel some type of way. That's gonna be all through her brain cells. Wow. What have I done? You didn't do nothing. You just was the one who needed to get contacted and followed. And that was all. Because they pushed everybody else away from him. All his family. They started capturing his family members and everything of that nature. Locking them up. His son, I think his son got like 600 years or something like that. All of his like close companions and everything of that nature. So he was singled out. So the only people that was really around him,
He believed to be around 59 years old.
the only people that was around him were his guards. And his generals. So I give it like a little handful of people. He felt lonely. And another thing is too, Mencho was on dialysis. He had liver problems. He had liver problems. So he was trying to build a hospital for himself because he had to have transfusions all the time on the daily. So that right there was another notation because it was bad on his health. He couldn't move and maneuver as much as he wanted to or could. He had to be stable in one place. He had to be stable in one place. And that's the reason why he was trying to get the get the hospital built. Those of y'all in the chat, appreciate y'all for sliding through and rocking with the kid. Hit the like, subscribe button if you haven't already. This is what we do. Ace Aura Media, we covering all grounds. From the city to the suburbs. From the city to the suburbs. We can get back in tune.
Mexico is on high alert.
The drug cartels taking on the Mexican federal government and threatening to kill anyone who gets in their way.
Tourists in the popular Mexican holiday city of Puerto Vallarta trapped in their hotels as war rages on the streets below.
Violence following the killing of the notorious cartel boss El Mencho.
I would put him at the same level as Pablo Escobar and El Chapo.
His full name, Nemesio Ruben Osguero Cervantes, alias El Mencho. He was the founder and undisputed head of the Jalisco New Generation Cartel, one of the most powerful criminal organizations in Mexico. The cartels in Mexico are very powerful. They have their own military. They rival the government. They don't have a high value on human life. They like public executions. They want people to know they have authority, they have power, they have muscle, and they carry weight. And they do it very publicly. Who's going to move in to try to take over? How is CJNJ going to retaliate against Mexican authorities to show, hey, we're not going away?
What do you think about this one? Honey, you okay?
It feels like we're being watched.
Hey everyone, welcome to another Sit Down with Michael Francis. Hope everybody is doing well. All is very good and very blessed on this end. As always, my friends, I give all the praise, honor, glory, and thanksgiving to our God for that. Well, I'm sure everybody has heard by now what happened in Mexico, and that is there was a retaliation from the cartels after a drug lord by the name of El Mencho, that's what he calls himself, was killed by Mexican authorities. And it seems that violence broke out all over Mexico. And, you know, let me say this before I go any further. I love visiting Mexico. I love the Mexican people. We have a place in Puerto Vallarta that we go to quite frequently. And it's a wonderful town. I mean, really, everything about it is so beautiful. And we didn't expect any violence ever to break out there because it's very peaceful. It's one of the most visited cities in all of Mexico. It's beautiful. Really love it. And it was kind of surprising to hear that violence broke out in that city. And hopefully that's the end of it. I understand that order has been restored, even though the State Department here in the United States has advised all American citizens not to visit Mexico, at least until they get a handle on this and get it under control. And I want to talk about a couple of things. First of all, I'll get into some of the facts. I took some notes.
So the FIFA Cup was supposed to be held in Mexico this year, 2026. But with this going on with the cartel, I doubt that it's going to happen. I seriously doubt that it's going to happen. They might, I'm not going to say cancel it, but move it elsewhere to another location just because of this fact here that.
About exactly what did transpire yesterday. You know, some of the questions now remaining, is the U.S. in any way going to, make their move against the cartels? Trump's been talking about that. As you know, he's been blowing up some ships from, or boats, I should say, from Venezuela that have been carrying drugs into the United States. There's some controversy about that. Of course, people on the left
out to Venezuela.
are, demonizing Trump for doing that. But what's new? They'll demonize Trump for doing anything. So, look, I'm a proponent of trying to do anything necessary to stop the drug flow into this country. We have 100,000 people a year, mostly young people, that are dying from drug overdoses. Much of it from this new horrible drug, fairly new anyway, fentanyl, that's been lacing a lot of the other drugs. I mean, we had personal tragedy here in our family. And as you know, I had a sister that died of an overdose. We've had drugs just not good in our family, let's put it that way. So I'm a proponent.
And a lot of people are dying from the fent just from physical touch basis. A lot of people get it in their system through touch and die instantly.
Of anything that's going to stop the flow of drugs into America, stop the flow of drugs, period, because it's obviously, not good for any society, any.
Stop the flow of drugs, period. Nah, I highly doubt that. I mean, to put a stop to it, capping it right now, yeah. Halting it, slowing it down for a moment, yeah. But stopping it entirely, nah, that's not going to happen. And the government, they make too much money from it as it is. I mean, it is what it is, ain't what it ain't. But at the same time, it can't be stopped. Can't be stopped. DARE is not a part of the USA customs at all.
But let's get into what happened yesterday. Let's hope that the violence ends. We don't know what it was all about. Again, it was retaliation, I should say, against the Mexican government for taking out El Mencho. And I know there are different cartels now that operate in Mexico. And I'm going to talk about the difference between Mexican cartels and the American and Italian mafia. Big difference. And I'll get into that in a minute. Let me first review what happened yesterday. Nemesio Ruben Osguera Cervantes, alias El Mencho, he was the leader and founder of the Jalisco New Generation Cartel, CGNG. And he was killed in a Mexican military operation in Jalisco State on Sunday, the 22nd of February, 2026, which was just recent. Mexican authorities describe this as one of the most significant blows to organized crime, the cartels, since the capture of Joaquin El Chapo Guzman. Big deal. Everybody knows who El Chapo was. And they're saying this is the biggest, capture, killing of any drug lord ever since the capture of El Chapo. The operation took place in or near the mountain town of Tapalpa in his home state of Jalisco. It was conducted by Mexican Army Special Forces. Officials say they attempted to apprehend him. He was wounded in a shootout, and then he died while being airlifted to Mexico City for a medical treatment. U.S. agencies, get this now, provided intelligence support to Mexican forces, reflecting close U.S.-Mexico coordination and U.S. political pressure to target cartel leadership. Since Trump got into office, he's been pressuring Mexico to come down on the cartels. He labeled them a terrorist group. He even said that he was going to go into Mexico on his own. The Mexican government resisted that, which I understand. They don't want foreign forces coming into their country. They said, we'll do it. But we do know now that America's been working with the Mexican government to try to get this cartel situation under control. And hey,
and that's because the cartel been whipping their ass. Back to back to back to back. Cartels been on their heels. They can't stop them. They trying to take out the head of the organization, but at the same time, what they're doing is making more room for other heads to sprout. And with that comes the vengeance of, okay, you just killed El Mencho, so now the others are going to start to try to rise in power, and it's not gonna get better. It's going to get worse. Even at their own president said the same thing. It's not going to get better. It's going to get worse.
Cartels want to operate in Mexico, fine. Just keep them out of the United States. Unfortunately, there's a big market here for drugs. It's going to be difficult. California, where I live, is one of the main entryways for all the drugs. We have a sanctuary city, thanks to our wonderful governor and our democratic leadership here. So drugs pour in, no question. Then they go throughout this state and throughout the country. So the American U.S. forces, I believe what happened here, not positive, but this is what I believe.
Slow it down.
In the same way that U.S. intelligence was able to pinpoint where Maduro was in Venezuela, they gave that reconnaissance and that information to Mexico, and they, in turn, the Mexican government was able to locate and apprehend El Mencho.
Run Windows, Linux, and more on your Mac with unmatched performance and compatibility. Manage all your virtual machines.
Let me continue. At this point, I got to tell you, people, my blackberry wine, it's in such high demand. Blackberry, strawberry, my two favorites out of all of our fruit wines. So when you see me enjoying a glass of Franzese wine, it's normally my blackberry.
Plug it in, OG.
I don't have a glass of wine every single day. I would say 2-3 times a week. Maybe a little bit more depending upon where I am, but I just love the blackberry wine, our fruit wines, I didn't even know we were going to have them when we first got into this company, but our vineyards in Armenia, they created this beautiful wine. They had us taste and they said, hey, we got to sell it here in America. It's going to be a big seller. And really it has been. It's been unbelievable. So, if you like fruit wines, and if you don't like fruit wines, try it again. I guarantee that you will. But they're delicious. They really are. So, after the announcement of his death, CJNG Cells unleashed a wave of retaliatory violence in multiple states, especially Jalisco, which Puerto Vallarta being one of them. Reports indicate buses and vehicles were burned, highways and city roads were blocked, and attacks carried out on businesses and infrastructure. As far as we know, I believe there were 30 deaths, but I don't believe any American citizens were killed. Important to know. I don't believe any American citizens were killed up until this point. Yeah. Guadalajara and other...
As of right now, no American citizens were harmed or killed, but there were more than 30 deaths involved, more than 30 casualties, more than 30.
Cities partially shut down, residents stayed indoors, and major tourist areas like Puerto Vallarta were affected. U.S. diplomatic missions issued shelter-in-place advisories and travel warnings for Americans in affected regions. I know they stopped, the airport was shut down at Puerto Vallarta and other places. All flights going in and out from the major airlines were stopped. I believe as of Monday, they were starting up again. As of Monday, there was no violence that we were able to see in Puerto Vallarta. And the reason I keep mentioning Puerto Vallarta, because that's the city that was all over the news. And like I said, I visit there quite often. Wonderful city, beautiful place. People are always wonderful in Mexico. They're always just so outgoing, so, hospitable. They want to do everything for you. Their Mexican people are great. Who he was. His full name, Nemesio Ruben Osguero Cervantes, alias El Mencho. He believed to be around 59 years old at the time of his death. He was the founder and undisputed head of the Jalisco New Generation Cartel, CJNG, one of the most powerful criminal organizations in Mexico. And let me tell you something, the cartels in Mexico are very powerful. They have their own military. They rival the government there. There's no question about it. It's not like the mafia here in the United States, I'll get into that, or even the mafia in Italy. They rival the government. They have artillery. They have power.
Big.
They have a lot of government people on the payroll. Probably mostly the local police more than anything else. Definitely. No question about it. They've been running that country in a big way for a very long time. One of the reasons why Trump was putting pressure on the Mexican government to get rid of the cartels. I don't think he'll ever do it, but he's pressuring them. Under his leadership, El Mencho, CJNG expanded rapidly.
No, they're not going to get rid of them. That's exactly what I said. As far as when they were speaking of the drugs coming to an ultimate halt. No, they're not, because of the fact that they're not going to get rid of the cartel. The cartel bring in too much money, too much funds. They produce a lot, but the only reason that they went after El Mencho and they agreed upon it was because of the fact that President Trump was on their heels about the situation. And without President Trump being on their heels about it, they would have just been the same. It would have just fluctuated the same. But because of the fact, it's like we got to make it look like we're at least trying to do something, At least trying to do something.
Rivaling or surpassing the Sinaloa, which is a major cartel in influence across multiple Mexican states. CJNG's core activities included large-scale cocaine and methamphetamine trafficking, fentanyl distribution to the United States, extortion, fuel theft, kidnapping, and control of local economies. I want to tell you, a lot of the cartels, there's drugstores on every corner in legitimate.
And I want to tell you, any methamphetamine, as far as fent, any hard drugs, cocaine, fent, boy, dog food, anything of that nature is not here, made nor processed in the United States of America. Everything comes from outside of our borders. Everything. The only thing that I can say that we have here, that we produce, but it's not even considered a illegal substance or an illegal drug in a lot of the states now, is marijuana, cannabis. That's it. Everything else.
Legal drugstores on every corner in Mexico. And from my understanding, most of the cartels own these drugstores. They operate them, they own them, and they're legal. How that happens, I don't know. I'm not that involved in it. He cultivated a reputation as a ghost boss. Few current photos, very low public profile, operating from rural strongholds to evade capture for years. He was smart in that regard. He wasn't a John Gotti type. Known for sanctioning extreme public violence, attacks on military convoys, mutilated bodies left as messages, and terror tactics against communities. You know, I have to say this, from my observation of the cartels, they don't have a high value on human life. They like public executions. They want people to know they have authority, they have power, they have muscle, and they carry weight. And they do it very publicly with respect to that. And, you know, the Mexican people are even in fear of them. There's no question about it. You don't want to step out of line with these drug cartels. He faced multiple U.S. federal indictments, including drug trafficking and weapons charges, as well as operating a continuing criminal enterprise under the Kingpin Act. So he was wanted here in the United States. The U.S. had offered up to $10 to $15 million for information leading to his capture, placing him among the world's most wanted criminals. Son Ruben Azuguera Gonzalez, El Menchito, was extradited to the U.S., convicted of drug and weapons charges, and is serving a life sentence in a Florence, Colorado Supermax. Okay, so they got his son. His daughter, Jessica Joanna Azuguera Gonzalez, pleaded guilty in the U.S. to offenses related to money laundering and the Kingpin Act violations and was released in 2022. So they got his kids too. Other close relatives are also believed to be in U.S. custody, weakening any direct bloodline succession. So who wins from all this? Well,
and that's how they started it all. Breaking him down piece by piece, bit by bit, organism by organism. It's like they went down to the most minuscule of atoms to get to this man because of the fact that they knew that that was the only way that they was going to be able to capture him.
The Mexican government, they gained a major symbolic victory. They demonstrated the capacity to strike top-tier cartel leadership after years of being criticized.
Like
the Mexican government is always criticized because people believe that the cartels run the country.
They do.
Can frame the operation as a key success in restoring security ahead of high-profile international events such as the World Cup matches that occur in Mexico. It strengthens its position in bilateral negotiations and security cooperation with the United States. Maybe now the United States will have a little more faith in Mexico's ability to apprehend and their desire to apprehend the cartels. A lot of Mexican government officials, it was hands off. They didn't want to mess with the cartels. Too messy, too bloody. They just stayed away. Just don't upset the apple cart and we'll leave you guys alone. Not a good policy. For the U.S. government and law enforcement, it removes a primary architect of fentanyl and meth that flows into the U.S., at least at the leadership level. So maybe we cut off. Is it going to stop? No, it's not. Validates intelligence sharing and joint operations with Mexican military forces. Like I said, it was the United States that gave them the intelligence information we believe that pinpointed the whereabouts of El Mencho. It provides a high-profile example to argue that pressure, sanctions, and coordinated operations can produce results when you're going against these cartels. What happens with rival criminal organizations? Well, the Sinaloa-aligned factions and other regional groups see an opening now to move into CJNG territories, ports and smuggling corridors, and they're going to try to do that. No question. The Sinaloa cartel is very powerful. Local gangs may leverage the power vacuum to seize control of local markets and rackets. Now, just because they took the leader out doesn't mean that the cartel is going to fall apart. There's always somebody to take your place. However, these wins typically come with a significant rise in violence as groups contest those spaces. Here's the problem. It's not so much the cartels going after American citizens or normal people. They're going to go after one another.
Yes.
And when that happens, violence breaks out in different towns, different cities, and people maybe get caught in a crossfire, or they're afraid to go out of their house. It disrupts businesses, puts things at a standstill. So that's what you got to worry about. We're going to see what happens now in the next couple of months or next couple of weeks maybe. Hopefully, it's not going to affect tourism, but I don't know. State Department is saying, hey, don't go to Mexico. So we'll see.
And it's going to affect the
Who
FIFA
clearly
Cup,
loses in the
FIFA
short
World
term?
Cup.
Well, civilians in CJNJ dominated areas face increased risk from blockades, arson, and shootouts. There's going to be a power struggle here. There's no question about it. So normal people, unfortunately, innocent people, are going to be impacted by this. Businesses and tourism in Jalisco and other affected states suffer from fear and travel warnings. Biggest thing. If we're being told to stay out of Mexico, nobody's going to travel there for the foreseeable.
And that's the thing. A lot of people foresee their businesses and things off of tourism. So if the U.S. of A., well, pretty much everyone is being told not to go to Mexico or those parts of Mexico, then where they're going to get their funds at. Nobody's coming to purchase anything. So what is there to produce?
Future. Local security forces may face revenge attacks and intensified ambushes. What we know about the cartel and what to expect. High militarized cartels with paramilitary style units. Remember, this is like military. They have a lot of equipment. They have firepower. They're armored vehicles, heavy weaponry, capable of confronting state forces directly. They can fight the government. Yes. The mafia in the U.S. can't, and the mafia in Italy really can't. We don't have that paramilitary type of equipment. Not in Italy, not in America. We'll get into that more. More decentralized than older cartels, built on regional cells and semi-autonomous franchises that pledge loyalty but cooperate independently. So what they're saying is maybe now there's going to be a lot of little gangs that are going to take over or operate independently without answering to one of the major cartels. I don't know if that'll be allowed to happen. It's like the mafia allowing little gangs to operate in their territory. They're not going to allow that. It's why we wouldn't allow bookmakers to work without working with us or for us. No, you're in our territory, you're going to work with us. And I think that's what will happen here. Known for rapid public retaliation when leadership figures are targeted, designed to punish the state and signal strength. Short-term reaction, continued roadblocks and vehicle arsons on key highways, especially in western Mexico.
You, just you, building your app on base 44. Describe it. And it's real.
Possible attacks on police stations. This is what you can expect. Military patrols and government buildings in CJNG heavy regions. The use of narcomantis or banners, social media videos, and rumors to shape perceptions and intimidate rivals and communities. A lot of stuff is going to happen in the aftermath of this, no question. Elevated risk to civilians who ignore cartel curfews or attempt to pass through blocked roads. Got to be careful here. The civilians got to be put on notice, and they know this. They don't mess with the cartels. Succession and internal dynamics. Well, there's no obvious successor from the immediate family since many of them are already apprehended or in trouble. Key relatives are imprisoned in the U.S., limiting a dynastic handover. Multiple regional plaza bosses and commanders may compete to control CJNJ's remaining assets, meaning that this cartel is not going to fall apart. Somebody's going to take power. Somebody's going to take control. Will the Sinaloa cartel move in and take over? That'll be a war. Who knows? Will local gangs move in and try to take over? Who knows? We said the family is depleted. It can't be really family members of El Mencho, so who knows what's going to happen.
And that's what they wanted to do. They wanted to deplete the family line, so that therefore no blood relation could be tied to the grand takeover when he died. So now it's a fight as far as who's going to be the head, who's going to take over. With him being gone, and he was the leader, it's anybody's ball game right now. It's anybody's ball game. But as far as little cliques or little gangs, you know what I mean, trying to come and take over, that's not going to happen. They might try, but at the end of the day, they're not going to be a successor or victor of the retaliation.
That's where we have to see what's going to go on in the next couple of weeks. A powerful internal figure consolidates control and recenters CJNJ around new leadership. If there is somebody powerful and respected enough to do that, that person may emerge. CJNJ fragments into rival factions. Like I said, Sinaloa can take it over, maybe local gangs, some rebranding or allying with competing cartels. Or a loose federation survives with the CJNJ name used by semi-independent groups. Long-term expectations. Drug flows are unlikely to stop. It's not going to stop the flow of drugs. No way. When you have these sanctuary cities like California, you know, thank God now we have a closed border. Drugs aren't coming in the way they were before. Thanks to President Trump. You can hate him, whatever, at least be honest about it. We don't need drugs flowing into this country, and he closed the border. Something Biden couldn't do, didn't want to do. As a matter of fact, he did just the opposite. We don't have to be redundant. The geographic map of control may shift as territories change hands, altering local power structures and violence patterns. From my notes, Mexican authorities may further militarize certain regions to prevent spiraling violence, at least temporarily. All right, so these are the things that could happen now. It's a wait and see thing. Let's see what happens. Who's going to move in to try to take over, CJNG? How is CJNJ going to retaliate against Mexican authorities to show, hey, we're not going away. You don't do this to us. Who knows what they're going to do? This is what we're going to find out in the next couple of days, weeks, months. So we'll see what happens. Meanwhile, there is a travel ban. I don't know if it's a ban. It's an advisory that we shouldn't be traveling to Mexico. That's all I know. Hopefully that's lifted and things change fairly soon. What's the difference between, the cartels in Mexico and the mafia? I've been saying this and I always get, oh, Michael, stop. Let me tell you something. There's a lot of people on the internet who read the media, read social media, read the newspaper, and they think they become the authority on the mafia, okay? I grew up in it. My father was a powerful figure. He was the underboss of the Colombo family. My father was one of the most investigated members of that life ever. I'm familiar with it since I'm 3 years old.
Very much so.
And then I was in the life for over 20 years myself. I know everything that I could know about that life, about what we did, what we didn't do, during my era, and even before. But people want to tell me, oh, Michael, you're wrong, this and that and that. Really? Where did you learn that? From the media? From social media? Do you believe 90% of what you read on, what you see on social media? So much of it is nonsense, especially about my former life. There's guys mouthing off there saying things, they don't know what the hell they're talking about in plain English. So if you're commenting to me, please don't try to tell me about the life that I lived and knew and grew up in. Anyway, major difference. We were not, during my time, major drug dealers. And to my knowledge, going back to the days of Al Capone and Mazzaria and Maranzano and Luciano, we were not the major drug dealers. We were not. End of story. Did we deal with drugs? Yes. No question. Everybody brings up Vito Genovese. I know. Yes, he was a drug dealer. Was the whole mafia dealing with drugs? No. Were we anywhere near as powerful in the drug business as the cartels? No. Did we have the same military might in the United States that the cartels have in Mexico? Absolutely not. 0%. And during my era, and my era was from the mid-50s, I would say. And when I say my era, my dad. And I know, my dad talked to me, my dad hated anything to do with drugs. And he told me time and time again, we do not deal with drugs, from when I was a kid. And during my era in that life, we were not allowed to deal with drugs. We were told straight out, if you deal with drugs, you die. Now, were some guys doing it on the sneak? Yes. Some guys were visiting gay bars on the sneak. Okay. Were we allowed to do it? No. We were not supposed to be doing it.
They were some mooks sliding to the bars. The little mooks. That's what they were called, little mooks.
It. And for those of you that contradict you with we're drug dealers, no. Remember, Paul Castellano was going after John Gotti and his crew. Why? Because he heard they were dealing drugs. And it was his excuse to eliminate them because he didn't like John anyway. And John retaliated by killing him first. So, but that was the whole reason, because his crew was dealing with drugs, according to Castellano. So stop contradicting yourself. We were not, those of you that say differently, we were not major drug dealers. Some guys were doing it on the sneak. I knew a guy very close to me, a soldier of mine, that blew his brains out in a phone booth. Tony Orgello, Tony the Gawk, we called him. Because he was afraid he got involved in a minor drug deal, and he was afraid we were going to walk him in the room and take his life. So please don't tell me, when I'm telling you we were not major drug dealers during our era. We were not major drug dealers, period. Now in Italy, I'm talking about the United States. Now in Italy, different. Yes, they were heroin dealers. No question about it. No question. That was not the United States. And don't cite the pizza connection for me, because those guys came from Italy. And they were pushing drugs through pizza stores. It wasn't us, and we were not supposed to be involved with them. Again, my era, so please don't tell me what I know and what I experienced and what I lived. I hope we got that clear. Drug cartels, they operate differently.
Hope you got that clear. The Italian mafia in the U.S., difference. Way big different story. Exactly what he said. See, they were not into the drug dealing per se. They were more into the bootlegging, the hooch, the racing, the gambling, you know what I mean? The horses and stuff like that, the extortion. But outside of that, nah.
One guy emerges. It's not, you don't take a blood oath or any of that stuff. You don't do that. We were an organized syndicate. The cartels are different. The cartels were built, okay, based upon extremely lucrative drug business. They made billions of dollars, no question about it. And as a result, they wanted to fight the Mexican government. So what did they do? They made themselves strong. They're a paramilitary group. They could fight the Mexican government. They may ultimately lose, but they could put up a fight. We can't do that. We could never do that here in the United States. The mafia wasn't built for that. No way. And if one of our leaders were taken out by the FBI, if John Gotti or Paul Castellano or anybody was taken out, or Joe Colombo, who I believe was taken out by the FBI in a plot designed by the FBI, we didn't retaliate against the government.
Not at all.
We didn't start shooting up the neighborhoods. We didn't close down businesses.
Y'all just went to the funeral.
That's not who we were.
Nah.
It's not who the mafia is in America. Totally different than the cartels. We're not even in the same conversation with respect to drugs and the ability that the cartels had, the strength that the cartels had within the country of Mexico. And when I say the strength, I mean military, firepower. We didn't have any of that. And let me tell you, the drug cartels, they will kill. They don't have a value of human life. I'm sorry. They'll make examples. They'll hang people. They'll slaughter people. They'll murder people. We didn't do that. We didn't go into neighborhoods and kill people to make a point. We didn't take over cities. We had our neighborhoods. We protected our neighborhoods. It was totally different organization and operation. In Italy, a little bit different, but Italy doesn't have the firepower that the cartels have. They lock up mafia guys. They weaken the mafia quite a bit in some places. The cartels are strong as ever. Strong as ever. The Mexican government doesn't even want to mess with them at times. The United States is pushing them now. So there is a very distinct difference between the mafia and the drug cartels in Mexico. Very, very distinct difference. We operated differently. We had a certain...
And that's the reason being. They're putting a big battery in Mexico's back because Mexico, they didn't want to step on any toes or anything of that nature. It was the United States of America coming, poking Mexico, saying, you need to get on your job. What else is there for us to do? And that's what it did.
Code. You know the deal. I don't have to break down the mafia. Many of you watching, you understand. So please, when it comes to that, don't even make the comparison because it's not valid at all. Now, the cartels were not strong here in the United States. They were bringing the drugs in, but they weren't strong here in the United States. And had they challenged us here they couldn't do what they're doing in Mexico in the United States. That would never happen. They couldn't do it. Our government would never allow it. They'd never be able to have that firepower. We, as the mafia, would never be able to have that kind of power. The government here would never allow it.
Never.
So there's no comparison in that regard. All right, so let me sum this up. You know, the cartels operate like a paramilitary group.
They are the paramilitary.
They want you to know, they want the Mexican government to know, we have firepower.
And we will go toe-to-toe.
We have authority. And we will do whatever it takes to maintain control of our business, period. You're not going to stop us. And we have no problem fighting you. We have no problem killing you. We'll come after you. We'll do what's necessary to show you, okay, that we can compete. You're not going to destroy our business. The mafia, we didn't do that. We operated, or we tried to operate in the shadows. We were a lot more subtle with the control that we had.
Very much so.
We infiltrated unions. We did things like that, okay? There's no comparison between the cartels and the mafia. Even in the structure, it was just totally different. In the cartels, yeah, there was a lot of nepotism. We had that too here in the mafia. But the power structure in the mafia didn't allow for family members to just move into certain positions. Didn't allow for that. Where in the cartels, it does allow for that.
Very much so.
I think if El Menchito were out,
his son,
and not in prison, he would probably be the one to take over, you know, his father's spot. Doesn't always happen like that. As a matter of fact, it rarely happens like that in the United States. So let's understand they're two entirely different organizations that operate entirely differently. The drug business is the cartel's main business. They make billions, not us. We did things differently, not the mafia. Look, let's get back to you know, what's going on there, and let's hope. We don't know what's going to happen in the weeks ahead. You know, who knows? I don't think it's going to end. I don't think it was just a showing yesterday and that's the end of it. I think we have to be on watch. I hate to tell people to be afraid to travel to Mexico.
Travel advisory.
I don't want to do that. You know, let's wait and see because it's a beautiful place and I want to go back to Puerto Vallarta. I know my friends want to go back there. So, you know, let's see what happens. But I'll try to keep you up to date. If I hear something, if I got any inside information, because we do have some, you know, friends that live there, and they've been giving us some feedback, we'll let you know. But until now, just beware, be on your guard. If you're going to travel there, just be careful, know where you're going, and be prepared. That's it for today, my friends. How do I leave you? Same way, never going to change. Be safe. What can I tell you? You know, I tell you, people, we live in a dangerous world, man. Every single day we open up the newspaper, we look online, and we're seeing some other tragedy. So we live in a dangerous world. I got to tell you, not in Dubai. They're pretty safe there. And please don't, Sharia law. No. And by the way, in Dubai, it's not totally operated by Sharia law. The Sharia law mostly applies to the Muslims.
Yes.
There is a combination, kind of a hybrid law, you know, from the French government and some European governments that operate outside of Sharia law in Dubai. So don't go there and, you're going to get your hands chopped off. No, you're not. No, you're not. That's not true. I know, lived there, friends that I visited there. I spent a lot of time. I got a lot of friends that live there. So, you know, I like to say things as they are. You know, sometimes we have preconceived notions because of what we hear. All right? You want to go to places that are safe. Bottom line. You know, and with all the...
But those preconceived notions only come from the things that they hear, the things that they see and read, especially on the internet of 2026 of social media. That's where it all comes from.
immigration stuff that's been going on, open borders everywhere. You got to tell it like it is. It's just not safe. The wrong people come into the country unvetted and they wreak havoc. It's happening in Europe. It happened here in the United States. Just this morning, the president was given a Medal of Honor to the families of the women that were raped and murdered by illegal criminal migrants that came over the border. If you don't have a closed border, you don't have a country. The bottom line, you don't have borders then. You don't have a country. And it belongs to anybody.
Very much.
If you get stuck on a melody or if you just feel like you can't get a song started, Output's co-producer is very dope. They make it much easier.
So, look, all I can tell you is people, be safe. Be healthy. You know, I'm really encouraged that so many more people, at least in my circle, and even what I see online, are talking about their health, about preserving their health, about eating the right foods. You know, I got to be honest, a couple of months, maybe a little more than that, I never really looked at the labels on foods. Now I do. Now I do. And I have to mention this. You can say I'm touting my wine or whatever, and I don't know where my wine bottles are, but you can say this. You know, the healthiest wines come out of Europe. They don't have all the additives. They don't have all the arsenic, the glyphosate or something they call it, the pesticides that they spray here. Mm-hmm. The healthiest, it's a big study done on this, come out of Europe. Italy, Armenia, where my wine comes, none of those added preservatives, no added sulfites. You drink it, you don't get a hangover, and you don't feel like you're ready to crash, because the FDA here is not doing their job
at all. The FDA.
What's arsenic doing to a great degree in all of our wines? And this glyphosate, I'm not saying it right, but you know what I mean. It's a pesticide. It's no good.
Yeah, it's a pesticide.
No good. So the healthiest wines are coming out of Europe. Sorry, Napa Valley, it's true. Coming out of, and I love Napa wines, but the healthier wines are coming out of Europe, and that includes Armenia. Very healthy. So Franzese wine,
Armenia.
Try it.
Because
just try it. See how you feel afterwards. Be safe, be healthy. And yeah, I mean this, people, when I say it. God bless each and every one of you. God bless your families, your neighborhoods, your communities, your loved ones. And yes, God bless America. God bless the Mexican people. God bless anyone that's suffering and just being oppressed anywhere in the world. We don't want to see that. As Christians, people say silly things, and I'm going to continue. Michael, you can't be a Christian if you support Trump. Oh, give me a break, will you please? Give me a break. Stop throwing the Christian card at me. It's stupid, okay? It really is. It's stupid to say that. What does that have to do with anything? Because I support Trump. Can I ask you a question? Are having two genders Christian or not? Very Christian. God created man and woman. Trump's policy. Pro-life? Trump's policy, biblical. No trans men competing against women in sports, biblical. No question about it. And I can cite the verses. Okay? No gender-affirming surgery in minors to change their gender or try to change their gender. Trump's policy, biblical. I support those policies, so why would you say I'm not Christian because I support Trump? They say, well, because he's a liar. Oh, really? Give me one person on the face of the earth that hasn't lied. One, including me. Stop. It's so ridiculous. Really, it's ridiculous to say things like that. Think before you comment, people.
Unc sipping on that holy water. Yeah, over there getting into his shabinda.
And I got to say this. 95% of the comments are intelligent and supportive and reasonable. That's all we ask for. And if you don't like Trump, I get it. You don't have to like Trump. You have an opinion. You don't have to like him. You don't have to like his policies. I get it. But why do you knock people that support them? I don't knock you for supporting the candidate of your choice. I disagree with you, but I'm not going to say you're a bad.
We're not going to get into the politics at all. You're veering off a topic. That was a good standpoint that you had from the beginning all the way up to the political speech. We're gonna save that one for the political party, let that one go down for the political party, because that's not what we about to get into over here. But like I was saying, it's a big difference between the mafia and the cartel and how they move and go about things. We started from the Grinches of El Mencho and how he was captured today, and went on down into the line of the differences between the mafia and the cartel. So on this, I'm going to leave y'all on a good note. Make sure y'all double tap that screen if you're still here. If not, come back tomorrow. It's going to be some more juicy intels for you. So double tap your screen, like and share, subscribe. We here to stay. Ace Aura Media, you know, slowly but surely. And we're going to get all the way in tune. Can't go no wrong. That was a good session. Very detailed session. This is what I like to do. So for everybody tapping in, we're going to tap in and tap out. So tomorrow, it's another day for another one. If you're just getting in here, sorry you missed the show, you can rewind it and get all the valuable information that you need. But before you leave, double tap that screen, subscribe, and come, you know, rock out with your boy on the next segment, and which will be more than likely tomorrow morning. So turn those notification bells on so you won't miss the show. Gotta get up, get my exercise on, do my workout, gotta do my little boxing. Give me some good fruit to eat. And that's that. Day packed and full. So we appreciate you all for tuning in. Till next time, people. Peace.